Hello again, students. We'll be doing a 2-day series of labs called the Disappearing Penny Lab. In this lab, you'll be doing all of the same math calculations that you'll be doing for this project, and using this as kind of like a practice version of your investigation into your research questions. And so, what you're going to be doing with this 2-day series of labs is investigating the chemical composition of a penny coin. Now, as we mentioned earlier on in the fun chemical fact of the day, pennies are made of 2.5% copper and 97.5% zinc. That's the standard that the US Treasury Mint has kind of published to the public. Now, there's two ways, if you have a penny coin, there's two ways of really figuring out how many grams of copper and zinc there are in that coin. There's the theoretical way, which you can like calculate, or you could measure an actual value, right? Now, with a theoretical value, the way you would do that is determine, like, figure out how much does a coin weigh, and from that you can use the fact that it is supposed to be 2.5% copper and calculate how many grams of copper there are, and the fact that there's 97.5% zinc and calculate how many grams of zinc there are, based again on the mass of the coin, which you could measure. This is what we call a theoretical value. This is what the coin should theoretically be made of. This many grams of copper, this many grams of zinc, based on, again, the percentages. Now, this is one way of doing it. The other ways would be to get what we call an actual value. Now, that is theoretical because we don't actually know that for a fact. We're just assuming that the percentages we're given is accurate. The actual value is different in that you're actually going to be measuring how many grams of copper and how many grams of zinc there are. And this is what we'll be doing for this lab, the Disappearing Penny Lab. The way that we will go about this is using a little bit of tricky chemistry. We'd measure how many grams of copper there are and how many grams of zinc there are. Now, it turns out hydrochloric acid, which we've worked with before, is able to dissolve zinc, but not copper, only zinc. Now remember, zinc is the center of the coin, forms the core, and the copper is just like a plating that goes over it. And so if we were able to just shave off a little bit of that that coating, copper coating on the outside, expose a little of that zinc, and if we were to let that sit inside hydrochloric acid overnight, um, we would allow the hydrochloric acid to dissolve away the zinc for us. And so what we can do is allow the zinc to be dissolved away by the hydrochloric acid. The leftover, like hollowed out copper plate, the coating, and we just measure the remaining copper coating to figure out like how many grams of copper there are. And we can subtract that number from the original mass of the coin to figure out how much of the zinc got dissolved away. And from that, we can actually measure how many grams of zinc and how many grams of copper there were in the coin to begin with. Okay, and we can compare that to the theoretical value to see, well, how far off were we? And so we be able to figure out a percent error from that. Okay, so that's what we're planning on doing. I'm looking forward to it and hoping that we'd be safe with that. So a couple of quick, before we get started, a couple of quick safety points. This is an acid lab, and so if you're one of the students who are wearing contact lenses, this would be a good lab to sit out for today. Make sure that we're all wearing goggles, please. And if there are any spills, don't panic, but do let the teacher know so that we can come over and make sure we clean up the mess for you. If you spill any on your eye, make sure you go to the sink and rinse it off. And yeah, please be safe. Take a moment to look over, to discuss with your group to figure out who's doing which role. Again, reminder that we need a facilitator, we need a resource person, we need a safety person, and we need a recorder. So take a moment just to figure out who's doing what role, and go ahead and open up the checkpoint called Disappearing Pennies and get started. You have about 30 minutes for this lab.